Hello, this is JJ Humphrey. We are at Elephant in the Room today. Our other host, Bobby Cleveland, is under the weather, so he won't be joining us today. I hope he gets feeling better. Prayers are out for Bobby. But we have a very honored guest, and that is Don Spencer. And Don is president of OK2A. And one of the most powerful, impactful groups in the state. Don has just put together a really, really great organization. And again, he has really worked not just on gun issues, but Don, you're on all kinds of issues across the state. Don't ever know if I tell you how much we appreciate you, but I really do. You're one of the best people I've met since I've been up there. You don't wishy-washy around. It's pretty easy to call. I normally don't even have to call you to understand where you're at. You're one of those people I can predict pretty much on most issues where you're going to be at. So really just grateful for who you are and what you're doing, your organization. But want to jump right into the subject of why we wanted you to come on, because there's a huge issue going on in the gun world right now. But it's not just about guns. It's about your rights. It's about the woke crowd trying to take away everything that we as a nation stand for, our Constitution. And so there's a thing going on right now that I understand that the ATF has come in and set rules which they can't. This law has got to go through the either through Congress, which you should go through Congress. I'm going to assume this will go to courts and be shot down. I hope that it will be. But it's my understanding the ATF has come in and set rules. They're going around and telling everybody that changes made on weapons are now going to be illegal. You got 120 days to get rid of your guns and turn them in. So can you expound on that a little bit so our listeners will know what's going on?
Well, it's pretty hard to expand on it because I think it's defined in this rule is defined in 270 pages. So this is the government's bullying at its best. One, we do not recognize the state of Oklahoma is a Second Amendment sanctuary state. Therefore, the sheriffs, any public of the state, municipalities, so on, are not allowed to participate in doing the dirty work of the federal government. This overreach and has to do with what's called the arm brace on that can be applied to a pistol. And it's usually an AR pistol, can be an AK pistol, and there's a whole slew of other ones that I can't even keep up with what is and what isn't. But
is that what they refer to as a butt stock or a gun stock?
No, the bump stock is actually a completely separate issue that has already been thrown out of the courts. That was actually the ATF with President Trump said, "Oh no, you can't have a bump stock." And we just found out last December. Turns out you can, because it's only an attachment to the gun. It does not make a gun a machine gun by the definition. By the legal definition. So the ATF with this arm brace in 2012 said, yeah, they're fine. No big deal. And the number floats from 4 million to 40 million of these things out there. And so overnight, a person could be a felon just because they've got this attached to their pistol and it is sitting in their gun safe and they haven't even taken it out, carried it, used it, shot, anything. It's an attachment. And the reason we have to push back on this and why it's wrong, can you imagine if they say, oh, you know what? We don't like your scope on your gun. That's an attachment. You can't have that anymore. Or we don't like that flashlight that's on your gun. It's an attachment. You're a felon now. We don't like that laser sight on your gun. I mean, it can just go on and on and on. And so,
if they get to set the law, if the ATF,
it's not a law, it's a rule.
Where does that stop? Yeah, where's that going to end? You know, I mean, they don't like handguns. Okay.
Well, let me tell you where it ends. Is one in the courts is where we hope it ends quickly. But one good thing that's taken across the state, a lot of people don't realize, is so far, when we have the list, is 21 sheriffs in the state of Oklahoma says, I'm not enforcing this unconstitutional rule. We're not doing it. It's unless a person uses the gun in a crime, we're having nothing to do with it. And the thing is, we got 77 counties, so we need a whole bunch more sheriffs to jump on board to let the federal government know your overreach is not welcome and will not be tolerated here.
Yeah, I don't know why sheriff. If I was a sheriff in Oklahoma, especially rural Oklahoma, man, I would, I would jump on that. It shocks me that we only have 21. You kind of explained that a while ago, but for our listeners, guys, there's a 10th Amendment Oklahoma has voted that basically says, I'm gonna put it down Humphrey terms. It basically says that the states are sovereign over, that the states have authority, and that the federal government answers to us, not we answer to them. And so what we're saying, if the federal government comes in and overreaches and tries to put something on the state of Oklahoma that either is not constitutional, either through the Congress or executive order, doesn't matter how it comes. If it is unconstitutional, state of Oklahoma says we're not going to follow that.
But well, here's what it is right here.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to thank you for voting for this, because this is exactly what it says, signed into law 2 years ago. And it says any federal law, executive order, administrative order, court order, rule, policy, or regulation ordering confiscation or surrender of firearms or firearms accessories or ammunition from any law-abiding citizen of this state shall be considered an infringement on the Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms guaranteed by the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and the Oklahoma Constitution. So
Does that say that if they come in and try to do that we can actually arrest them, Don?
No, not yet. That's where we're going, and that's where we have to go now. Yeah. But it does say, paragraph C also says, it shall be the duty of the courts and law enforcement agencies of this state to protect the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms within the borders of this state and to protect these rights from the infringement provided under the provisions of this act. So it does say, hey, these guys aren't supposed to be doing that, but what you're getting at is we got to have some teeth in this to make it really.
Don, that's what I've experienced. It takes you a little while to kind of get acclimated up there and understand things and see things. And one of the things that I've learned is we're passing a lot of laws that sound good on face value. They are good on face, but that is a good law. That was a good step forward. I'm proud to be a part of it. But here's the deal. We have to put in teeth to those laws to say, hey, you come here, you're going to be the one to get arrested, and we'll fight that out. And again, we've got 21 sheriffs that are on board with that. Where are the rest of our sheriffs? That's disappointing.
That's a fair question, but this thing started rolling just last week, like Wednesday and Thursday. It just started rolling. So, and of course, sheriff's offices aren't open generally over the weekend. So I would anticipate you're going to see this pick up and continue movement, because there's a lot of OK2A members out there that are asking their sheriffs, where's the letter like all these other counties are providing? And some of these sheriffs are already saying, well, we already said we're a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Well, that's great. But now we actually have an absolute focus on what the reason is. You need to come out as a sheriff and say specifically, this is not going to happen in my county.
Right.
And so that's what needs to come out.
Absolutely. We need you need to step forward and be somebody who puts your name on the line and says, hey, this is where we're at. We're not moving, and announce that. So many politicians right now want to ride the fence. They're scared to commit. And again, we've got to get out of that. We've got to get to where, hey, we know exactly where you stand. Put your word out there and stand on your word. One of the things I love about your organization, Don, and I don't know, me and you talked a little bit about this, but it's so grassroots, and so many people that I talk to across the state just are feeling helpless. What can I do? I'm one person. I can't make a difference. And what you've demonstrated is just in the last 6 years since I've been up there, and you just continue to grow, and you're going out into some of these rural districts and starting. And now you have 10,000? You got it. How big's your group?
Well, our digital footprint is over 50,000.
That's awesome.
And so our dues paying membership, you know what? I cannot get a rock down number on it, but it's in the thousands for sure. And but again, it's kind of like church, JJ. You're familiar with this. Is that 80% or 20% of the people do 80% of the work? And
you think it's that high? Maybe 90-10.
You're probably right, but you see my point is that we got a lot of people that say, I'll lay down my life for the Second Amendment, blah blah blah, but then they won't show up at a meeting. They won't make a phone call.
Yeah, you won't get up and show up at the Capitol.
Yeah, they're not even in the rafters. They're not even the rafters at the arena at the top seat. They're not even there. So
they're absent. Yeah,
but they're the ones. They're the ones
again,
that's what we need. The loudest. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's what we need our listeners to hear. Is that as individuals we can't do a whole lot, but as organizations. And me and Don's talked about an organization I've got teaming up with his organization. Just, not going to always be on the same page, but when we are on the same page, let's join forces so that we had twice as many. But if you're calling, here's the deal. Perfect example was a teacher walkout. They show up 30,000, look at all the stuff they got. Hey, we ought to be able on a gun issue to turn out 100,000 deep without even without even batting an eye. We ought to be able to turn out 100,000 people at Capitol and say on these issues. And again, if we do it once, we only got to do it once, because if they know we can do that, then guess what? He can go in there and own the house.
And let's go to the name of your group here. Your
right.
The elephant in the room. If we can't get all of our rights back that were taken away from us at statehood, especially Second Amendment, there's no one to blame but the Republicans.
We own the House right now.
And we own the Senate too.
Yeah, we own the whole Capitol. We've got the governor, we've got the House, we've got the Senate. And why can't we get these things done?
Exactly.
Whether it be transgender. Hey, we shouldn't even have to act like transgender is a big deal. We ought to walk up there, have it passed in 2 days, take 1 day in the House, 1 day in the Senate, 3 days, the governor signs it. Any of these issues like that, especially our Second Amendment issues, shouldn't be up for grabs. And we should have a state question on that changes our Constitution where nobody, not anybody, can mess with it. We don't want to be.
Funny you should mention that.
We passed good laws since I've been up there. We have passed some good stuff. But Don, if we don't get that changed, then hey, if we have a flip in the House or Senate, guess what? Laws that were passed can be unpassed and changed.
Right, and it's not just a flip. It's not a flip in political parties. It's a flip inside the Republican Party, who's the leadership right now to fix this. And SJR is exactly what you're talking about. It changes the state constitution to where it should be. Your rights shall not be infringed. Hello.
Right. That ought to be an Oklahoma constitutional.
Exactly.
We ain't got nothing else to talk about. And if our people would get up and demand it, we could get it done.
And for 10 years, OK2A has worked on that. And believe it or not, the Republicans have killed it every time.
No, I believe it, man. I've had some bills. I had a bill.
I know.
Last year that would have stopped pornography in the schools, and hey, we got it through and got killed at the last minute. It just unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, it's just people don't understand. Now, some of that because they waited till the last minute, and I got everybody mad over another bill. And imagine that, but
imagine that
they waited till the last minute and they won't push stuff through at the last minute. And their deal was, hey, you're too hot, and if we put this on, you're going to take the whole afternoon trying to get stuff passed. Well, my thing is, why do you wait till the last minute? Why do you not start when session starts, putting stuff forward as it passes? Don't wait till last week and a half and try to run 80 bills a day. And again, nobody can tell you what they're voting. No, I have a hard time. Because I'm working on, Don, and I mean, you've been around me enough. I'm working on a ton of stuff. And so I may be outside working on trying to find $60 million hidden in the Department of Corrections. And I'm trying to run in there and go, what the crud are we voting on? Yeah. And I'll look on there and know 2 or 3 people I have confidence in. And if they're voting that way, okay, I'm voting that way.
Right.
And that's not the way to vote. We need something that's put out that describes what these bills are so that we can look at them, know what we want to study. They just did this in Congress the other day that they can't pass a bill. Those 20 guys that held out, this was one of the things they got, that they had to have 48 or 72 hours to look at whatever's offered.
Thank you, Josh.
That may not sound like much to people who aren't there, but man, that's huge.
Well, when a bill's thousands and thousands of pages, it's only makes sense. But thank you, Josh Burkeen, for being that one of those guys holding that out.
He got some heat. In fact, I wrote him, and he wrote me just about most days, every other day or so on that. But I'd sent him a message and said, "Hey, man, you catching heck down here. I'm getting bukus of calls wanting you to go along with that." And what I told him, standing up to the establishment's never easy. Stick to your guns, hold the ground, do what you think's right, be a man of principle. And and I told him, "Hey, I'll pray for you." That's where I'm at. And so, I think now looking backwards, now everybody says, "Hey, what an awesome job. Look what all we got." But when you're in the fire, nobody's throwing water in the fire generally. So, hey, something else, Don, that I have been going to call you for some time on that really troubles me is I've tried to stay up on this, and I just confess I ain't stayed up on it like I wanted to. But a few months ago, the credit cards were all saying, all your major credit cards were saying that they were going to track gun sales and that they were going to turn that in to, I suppose, ATF. And man, that just infuriates me,
Okay, we got legislation introduced. In fact, Senator Bergstrom and Representative Kevin West have a number of different bills addressing this from several different angles because it's multifaceted. It's been made complicated on purpose in the attempt to try to bury the American public. But one of the bills is that the discrimination that the state of Oklahoma cannot participate or use a company that's discriminating against Second Amendment rights. That's one of them. And then it also, another bill specifically says that a company cannot track the information that you've just described, giving it back to the government. And Texas did this, and Texas has already got one of the major banks kicked out for doing it. So, so it's important that this happens. Just because we have guns, we're not second-class citizens, and that was clarified in the U.S. Constitution or the U.S. Bruin case this last June. That you're not a second-class citizen, and basically in 1791, the precedent was set then for all future until Congress changes the law or something, which Congress can't do. It'd have to be an amendment process. So you got bullies in the big picture ignoring the Constitution, trying to run over us. And I'm telling you this, and you probably you already know this, but what they want is us, the citizens, to overreact to their stuff physically so they can justify coming in and trying to stomp us. That's
sure, they're going to make you out to be domestic terrorists, and that's what. When you hear that, and what they're anything they accuse you of, just look there. That's what they're doing. And domestic terrorism. If you want to see domestic terrorism, look at the Russia hoax. Look at the stuff that come from Ukraine. Look at all of the January 6th issue. Look at your stealing of elections and all of these kind of things that I call domestic terrorists. Look at the people in Antifa and who's backing Antifa. And again, what is Antifa? Antifa is just a bunch of thugs who are terrorists who go in and burn towns. I'm amazed that we didn't see any more happen in Memphis than what we did on. And I think a big part of that, and hey, I'm not making racist. I just say what I say, but all those officers were black. I think that really helped. And I'll tell you another thing I think helped. That guy's mom, and again, I've watched that video, and I try not to you got to have the whole video in context. But I will tell you this: I'm a law enforcement officer, and them guys were doing things that it just ain't okay. No matter, I don't care what was previously on what they, whether the guy spit on them, whatever. You don't fall off and kick them and hit them the way them guys were doing that guy. They got some problems. But again, here's the deal: justice system works. Those guys were fired. They're being charged. Guess what? Justice system is working. Let it work,
Right. But the other part that's so sad about that is the one officer used the guy's head for a field goal kick. Right. There is absolutely nothing. And I agree. There may have been something that got him elevated to try to before that we need to see. But after they had him down and in control, or on that, anything else, it is murder. And that what we witnessed, another murder, is exactly what.
Here's the thing: if you're all out there by yourself, I've been by myself and getting a fight. I've had my shirt ripped off of me. I've had 2x4s and stuff. Again, when you're in that kind of fight, it's all legal. I mean, when you're fighting for your life, guess what? You're okay. But if he's down on that ground and you just haul off and kick him, guess what? There ain't no court. Even when you're fighting for your life, if you're not fighting for your life when that guy's down there on the ground, he's on the ground, you're standing up. There's no reason when you can walk over there and not any kind of concern. You can watch that video. There is no concern for life. Oh, when there's 5 officers.
They're bumping fists like they did something good afterwards.
Right. And when there's 5 officers, guess what? There's no call for all. You shouldn't even have to hit him. 5 guys ought to be able to take one good guy down, put handcuffs on him.
And let's clarify this too. Let's clarify this too, because I know you've been in law enforcement. And the first thing people start saying, oh, you're a cop hater, you're a cop hater. No, I'm a liberty lover. I just want the law enforcement to follow the same constitution I have to follow. That's all I want.
I am a police officer. And one thing makes me mad, and one thing I want immediately addressed is bad police officers, because then it makes it harder on all the rest of us. And here's the deal. I'm working on some stuff on the DA. I've got a case where guys on a murder conviction, they're looking at executing. I got people wanted me to look in this case. I was like, I don't want to look in that case. I actually started looking and go, wow, and started digging deeper. We had an independent counsel come in, look. Hey, we have found where the DA purposely destroyed key evidence, and where they lied, and where they supported perjury and perjured themselves. Well, guess what? When you do that, then the whole trial's ruined. And again, I don't care whether it's prosecutors. I don't care whether it's legislators. I don't care whether it's police officers. We hold those people to a higher standard because they are the law and they have people's lives affected by what they do. And again, like I say, we have to hold them accountable. I think these guys will be held accountable. And I hope that, and again, kudos to his mom for using good sense to say, hey, look, let's not burn down our town because of this.
One other kudo that this video came out pretty quick after the thing had happened. And usually that's been the deal, is you don't see a video for years until after. It's because they're trying to cover up and bury it. So I got to give a little credit to Memphis, even though I still think there's a culture issue that this apparently someone thought it was okay to do this, but at least they're saying, hey, no, we're separating ourselves from this at some point.
Well, Don, back in the early 80s, late 70s, the Oklahoma Department of Corrections got sued. It's a case called Battles versus Anderson, Battles versus State, and it showed that the state of Oklahoma was just in such a horrendous in every area, whether it be medical, whether it be the number of officers, whether it be training. And we got sued about $10,000 a day, which back in that time was some pretty big money. And guess what? Oklahoma changed. And when I went to work for Oklahoma, hey, we were some of the most trained individuals because of that lawsuit. And we were meeting. And boy, for years, now Oklahoma has let that slip. We're back about to where we were before. And again, these police, we should have, and I'm looking at a program that would keep track on this kind of stuff, that would show, hey, where you have these kind of incidents, we don't wait till we get to here, that we see this and we go back in and start training and beating that into people's head. Hey, you don't do these kind of actions. You be professional. Right. You are professional.
And we need to take it. We need to take it one step farther. And this is one of the things, the legislation we need to talk about is we need to make sure, because we can now see what a camera on a cop does. We need to have cameras in the courtrooms so we can see how these judges are responding and how the DAs are responding and see the games they're playing. Because in Oklahoma, you think about taking your phone out and recording, you're going to be in contempt of court. And Nevada is the opposite.
Don, I've got things that judges have said to people, and I've got it documented. So we turned over some things that judges did. We took it to the OSBI. We took it to the AGs, former AG, not the new AG. It was on the DA's office, so you couldn't take it to the DA's office, and totally ignored. We ended up getting a former governor from Mississippi, and he filed a lawsuit for us in Texas. Again, I'm not on that. I'll be the guy put it together and will testify on it. But again, hey, I'm calling them out, saying this behavior. The way I look at it as law enforcement, I hold myself to a higher accountability, but the DA's higher than me. They have more authority than me. A judge is higher than them. Those people have to be held to the highest accountable, and nobody's holding them accountable. There is no accountability for these.
Exactly. And people go to vote. They go to vote on their judge or their DA, and they don't have anything that shows them or tells them. And there's special groups that specialize in this. They're not even in the state, that they'll keep a grade on each one of these performances so you have an idea. Right. And so it even needs to be in our own Oklahoma State Supreme Court and Criminal Court of Appeals. We need to see what they're doing. We need cameras in there.
I agree.
Now,
I agree.
So fix it. Just go over there and fix it. Just go down there.
Well, here's the problem on with law enforcement on that, Don. And most law enforcement are moving to the deal. We want it to protect us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's where they are. So convincing them we need these is not a problem. It's having the ability to turn it off. You got certain people want to keep it on all the time. I say turn it on when you have interaction. So if it's me and you, if you come and set my car and me and you're going to talk about, my chief or something,
that's fine. Sure.
I will turn it off,
Right.
But I want the discretion. But then you have a big problem with, a lot of people don't understand this. The money to store that data is really, really expensive.
Exactly.
A lot of our smaller sheriff's departments and the police departments can't afford that. So if we're going to push that as a state, and I think it's a good thing to push,
you need a central location for it. You need a central location for it. Yep.
Yeah, it's got to be a data, and we should be able to create that ourselves where it's not expensive, to where that Oklahoma has their data, so that a small sheriff's department can turn that into the Oklahoma data storage.
And the thing is, go look at the states that are doing it, see what they're doing, and see what you like and what you don't like, and pick and choose and go from there.
You don't
like
have
we do a lot of other things.
Copy off the best one in the room. You know what I'm saying?
If I figured it out, I think it can be done. Exactly right. I agree with you, sir.
Absolutely. Well, one of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about is that, we're hearing so much on how the FBI and the DOJ and these other alphabet agencies have been working with Twitter and working with Facebook to censor Oklahomans and censor all of America, as a matter of fact. We just saw Newsmax get cut from DirecTV. In fact, I'm writing a letter right now to say, Corporation Commission, Governor, we need to look at how do we ban them from operating in the state of Oklahoma. We need to look at, guys, it's not only important to look at AT&T and DirecTV, but these are billion-dollar companies who own a lot of companies under them that we don't even know we're doing business with. So I want to start looking at who exactly are they, and ban all the things that they do and say, look, you're not going to censor us. That's communism. And that's where we are today. It's propaganda media, propaganda companies running these things. And just how much does that propaganda affect, you know, these kind of things that we're talking about, like this ATF change, like this credit card deal? I mean, how much is the media suppressing that to the average American, do you think?
The media is absolutely in cohorts with the rest of the social media doing exactly what you're talking about. Or like I said, we've got over a digital footprint of over 50,000 people. And when you make a post and maybe there's especially something related to the Second Amendment, and there'll be 40 or 50 likes with 50,000 people, they're pushing it down, especially from 5 years ago when we had many fewer, but yet we would have a higher response when you would see make a post on something. There would be times we would see 70 and 80,000 people would view an item. And now it's not anywhere near that. And it's because of them continue to do this. I just think Elon Musk needs to buy Facebook and these other places too, and just clean house. That's what I think needs to happen. And like I said, we know, we know there's people that don't agree with us. And at least at OK2A, we're willing to work to protect their right to not agree with us. It may not be the other way around, but we know you have to be able to put your voice out there and do this. And you know, some people are just reckless. That's what they are, and you got to accept that in a free society. That there's people that are just reckless with what they say. It doesn't mean you can do death threats and things like that. We know that that's not part of really a free speech. But what we're doing here, like I say, you know, just like I say, the emblem behind me. We have to sometimes take the rifles off of that emblem, so we can actually get things to move through some of the social media stuff.
So people understand, Don, that I don't know that everybody knows this, but you can go to OK2A and they will have meetings throughout the whole state.
Absolutely.
And they will have those filmed, the entire meeting, and they will have people sometimes on during COVID. They were talking about vaccine and was very instrumental in informing Oklahomans what their rights were. When we have gun bills legislation, they always get up and tell you about, hey, here's the bills that we're working on. Here's the bills we oppose. One of the things that I so much appreciate, and I use this because people get a hold to me, what judges do we vote for? And right. I'll tell you, I don't know either. Yeah, exactly. And so I always get OK2A's list of how they say vote for judges. That's how I vote. And I send that out to all of the people who question for me. And I've also put it on my Facebook page, but it's not uncommon for me all the time on Facebook. I laugh, I look, and all these people get thrown in Facebook jail. I've never been put in Facebook jail, and I don't know that there's anybody said any crazier things than I have out there. I'm pretty much known for saying whatever I think. I'm pretty much known for being outspoken. To my knowledge, I've never been put in Facebook jail, but I will tell you what happened. Like you say, I'll do a post and all of a sudden it's just and I'll look on my phone. Where is it? Where is it? I'll repost it and it just, boom, it's down. And I've had as many as 3 to 4 weeks where I don't exist.
Right.
I'm not in Facebook jail. I just don't exist. My whole post is gone. Everything. You go look.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this because this is how OK2A has built up an organization. We actually have now an OK2A app. You can download the app. You go to the Apple Store or whatever phone you're on. You can go to OK2A. You'll see our emblem up there. Download it. And then put on there push notifications, because what that will do is I can send out a message to you. We don't go through social media. It goes straight to your phone, just like it's a text. So when I say, hey, call such and such, this is the bill that's up in support of the bill, or we don't want this bill to happen, you've got it right there. We're going around this system. And this is what we've done. It's a little bit expensive, but we got to get to you. We've got to be able to communicate with you.
Well, conservatives are going to have to do that. We've got to get better playing the game, whether it be getting out votes early. I was so disappointed in who we picked as the GOP again. because they have failed, in my opinion. Of course, everybody's got a different opinion, but it looks like we just went establishment.
Right.
I'm very disappointed in our Oklahoma vote, and we'll be working on. I just met that gentleman, and I didn't have anything against him. That is our leader on GOP in Oklahoma, but I can tell you this right now. He lost my vote, and I'll be pushing Sean Roberts out there because Sean is going to be a guy like you are. I don't have to wonder where Sean is. In fact, I'll tell you what, Sean will be telling me how to get straight on some things. And John's the person I call and ask, hey, where you at? Sean's been there in the legislature, sat right behind me. And the only vote that I would take back, that if I was be able to go back, Sean's sitting back here going, hey, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, I know what it is. And I wished I'd listened to him 500 times since. And again, I hope we get to take that vote back. It's on car taxes. And I'd misfigured it.
Right.
I thought it was just going to be a little bitty thing, and it turned out to be a big deal. I was wrong.
I believe that would be the elephant in the room. Is that what that
is? It is. And again, I want to tell our listeners that, hey, I'm disappointed in where we're at because, again, it's these people who claim to be Republicans are more dangerous. I know about the other side. It's these people claiming to be conservative that are undermining us, undermining what we're trying to do. They went out and said, hey, we didn't have professional politicians. Well, guys, I don't know, but I guarantee you, I'm classified as one of those people. I'm not a professional. People who hear me go, hey, how in the world did you ever get up there? I always get tickled, Don, when it's me and the
because we endorsed you. That's how you.
Oh, I know it. I appreciate it, and that's huge. But when people meet me and the speaker, they always are like, how in the world are y'all from the same place? Y'all like night and day. But the thing about it is, they were saying we're not going to back the vote of the people. So you may not think Herschel Walker is a professional politician. Thank God we don't need him. But here's the deal. That's the people's vote.
Right.
And when we get a Republican nomination, it ain't up to you to say, that we're not going to
not only that, the integrity of our vote has to be protected. And when the Republican leadership of this country said that there was no problem with the 2020 vote, and the leadership of this state said there's no problem with the 2020 vote, that shows just how out of touch they are. A pillow salesman showed me that, hey, there's an issue here we need to look into.
A blind man could see there's a problem.
Yeah.
Just in this last election, when conservatives show up in Arizona to vote, and what was it, 70,000 of them are we're sorry, it doesn't work. Well, you know why it doesn't work?
Yeah.
It's because they know conservatives show up on the day in-person voting, and they're going to shut that in-person voting down.
Right.
That is why it's a well thought out, it's a well organized strike at your integrity voting system. And we got to fight back. We got to quit worrying about who gets offended, who doesn't get offended. That's one of the things I like about you is you don't really go run a poll and see if it'll fit and is everybody going to like it. You just come out and say, hey, that's it. You're not testing the wind and seeing whether that's going to offend people. You're out there voting for what you believe. I don't think, as far as I know, Don, there's nothing that I've ever had any, distinct argument or even difference on. I don't even know that we've ever been on a different page. But one thing I like about you is even the people who are on a different page, you don't go after them. You don't attack them. You just say, hey, here's where we're at.
Right.
We disagree with you. And here's why. You can articulate why. And most of the time it's called the Constitution and your constitutional rights and the rights of the individual over the state and the federal government. We are the people. We are the government. And people have forgotten that. And so, again, I really like that about your organization. Y'all don't go out and try to make an enemy, but at the same time, you don't just dance around and try to, and again, I've seen it a couple of years ago. I can't remember what the deal was. I think it's on a hunting deal that people were really mad at you. I know you've had legislators mad because you give them a grading. I like the grading. I generally get graded pretty good. But again, I know a lot of legislators have gotten really, really upset on your grading system. And again, you haven't,
well, that's what makes us very unique. You're right, is that we learned early on a legislator may sit there and work against a bill, work against a bill, work against the bill in a committee, and then they realize it's going to pass, so then they vote for it after they've worked against it. So since I'm sitting there, I will let the people know, hey, your legislator, this is what he or she did. And it's not, that does not help what are getting our rights back. That should have never been taken away. And so, and they take a picture of the scoreboard after a vote, put it up on social media 10 seconds afterwards to say, how did your representative vote or how did your senator vote? Most representatives like it, like yourself, because you're doing the right thing. But it's not me making a lie that, oh, this person did this or that. Right there's the evidence for your own eyes to see.
Well, here's what's funny, Don, and I've run some gun bills. I've ran a few, but I way more assist you in running things through our committee,
right?
Trying to get things through committee, changing, working with you to see what we want to kill, what we don't want to kill, and doing all that. And I always get a good grade, as high as anybody generally, not because I carry the bills, but just because I work on those bills behind the scene that normally you don't get any credit, for doing stuff like that. And I mean, most people know, hey, if you can get that bill over there, and sometimes sometimes they block us from getting that bill over there, and we got to get creative, and sometimes we got to drop something into a new package and do also, it.
And like you said too, what makes us unique is that we realize we're not merely a gun group. We're a liberty group that realizes it may take guns to maintain that liberty. And liberty thinks you got to protect the First Amendment because the First Amendment protects the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment ultimately protects the whole Constitution. So,
me and my wife, I don't know if you watched on Newsmax, they were showing one of the interviews, and I think as Louisiana Senator questioning one of the judges that they're looking at now.
Yep.
And he was asking her, well, what's the Fifth Amendment? My wife didn't know, and I was saying, and then he asked her, what's the Second Amendment? And she didn't know that. And I was like, how in the world? I mean, almost anybody knows the Second Amendment.
Well, those were, he asked specifically what's Article 5 and what's Article 2. It's still the same thing. A judge should have a framework idea of what each one of those are. You're right. It's completely unacceptable.
It was just blowing my mind. And me and my wife got in a conversation about, the First Amendment and your freedom of religion that's being attacked right now. Your freedom of speech, which is being astronomically attacked right now. And if people ain't aware, they always phrase it out like we're the criminals, we're doing something wrong. So go look up the Respect for Marriage Act. Again, it ain't nothing about respect for marriage.
Right.
In fact, it's about tearing down marriage is what it's about, and making sure that we don't have a family unit and marriage.
Right.
But again, that's an attack. If you want to see a square out shoot over the bow at churches, and we're coming after you.
Right.
That's your first shot.
Right.
That you have seen directly aimed, in my opinion, at churches. Again, the censorship that we've seen, direct attack on the freedom of speech, Americans suppressing speech. And that's what I told her. I said, you know what? Everybody sees that First Amendment, but what you better be looking at is the second, because without the second, you don't have the first. And you just ain't going to have any of it as far as that goes. So I think it's just important that people know. I think it's important that people see that this government, this current government, would you not agree, would like to take every weapon. They're wanting to outlaw owning weapons.
I think the easiest way to define it and look at it is look at China. That's what they want to do to us. Crack down on everything, information, self-defense, free speech, all of that's gone. All your job now is to function to keep the government alive. and that's what they want.
Well, boy, I tell you what, I think that we as Oklahomans got to team together. I think one of the great things about your organization, you are being grassroots, you are getting out, you're using new ways, new technologies, you're getting creative on getting people up there. But again, the message is, we're getting 10% really involved, and 90% of you guys who are great people, who I know great intentions, who are great patriots, who's waiting around until I got to pick up my gun. How about if we get off our hiney and we don't wait till we have to pick up our gun, and we run up there and we get involved in calling our senators, calling our legislators, get involved on knowing what's going on with the ATF and how they're overreaching.
And we will keep you informed. OK2A will keep you informed.
And Don, now correct me if I'm wrong. I know I'm right, but I want to hear what you got to say about it. But right now, if you had to use your firearm to defend yourself, it would be a pretty scary situation.
Right. You should not have to even think twice about defense of your person, that you would ever go to jail for the rest of your life, or even defense of your property should not even be a consideration that you would have to go to jail for the rest of your life. And Oklahoma has had this very backwards that no matter, even if it's a good self-defense shooting, well, we got to consider running this through the courts. And like, no, if someone's breaking in your house or threatening you, no, it shouldn't. It should be, this is over with. And we need more of that. But the district attorneys basically for many, many years have used the courts to keep their buddies busy with defense fees and all that kind of stuff. And that's how they keep it pumped up.
And you're probably going to win after you spend all the money and go through all the stress. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, y'all were instrumental in stand your ground law. They got
we upgraded it to where it included businesses and places of worship, and then we've also expanded that. And then also we've got a bill this year coming up, Senate Bill 80, that will also clarify that the castle doctrine, the right to self-defense, is absolute inside your home. That will go all the way to the edge of your property and include the property.
Well, now, Don, didn't that also say that it's contingent upon the DA to prove that you weren't? So before they go forward,
that's the second bill. That's
the burden of proof bill. That is the most important thing. I think people don't understand this. It's so key. It's something that doesn't get talked about. It didn't make big headlines. But here's the deal, guys. Your DA, look at the people in Missouri that just went out, stood their ground, said, y'all move on here, and you're not going to destroy our home. And guess what? Because you had some liberal DA who wanted to make headlines, charged them. Yeah, they got off on it, but guess what? They had to go hire an attorney. Their lives were turned upside down. And in this law, it says that district attorney has to prove all that before they can charge you, that they had to prove you were not defending yourself.
That's actually a separate problem that was fixed in a separate bill. But yes, sir, exactly. We have that legislation to go.
I'm filing a similar bill this year. Here's what's funny. We now given the citizens more protection than we've given our officers. And the other day we had an officer that was attacked with the bat. The guy's coming at him with the baseball bat. And the officer's telling him, drop it, drop it, drop it. The guy keeps coming, gets within 5-10 feet of him or so. Officer shoots him, and yet this officer is charged like he ought to be Chuck Norris and take the bat away from him. That's what people think. And so what we're going to do is try to pass that same law that says that officer has the right to defend themselves, and that district attorney has to make that conclusion that he wasn't defending himself before these guys go all through these trials and things. It's really key. That's important. Hey, now, Don, y'all have got some insurance that I think is really important for our listeners to know about that would protect you from some of those and defend you if you did have to use a firearm.
Well, that's the way it works. U.S. Law Shield, and it's really not insurance; it's a service, but it does what you're talking about. That if you're involved in an act of self-defense, U.S. Law Shield is your lawyer as soon as you push the button and get them on the phone. They are there 24 hours a day. And I hate this, that every other week or so, I get a call or an email or something from somebody that, hey, I was in this self-defense act and this is what's happening. And they're getting railed down a road. And for, I don't know what, 11, 12 bucks a month, you have an attorney that's there ready to represent you if you're involved in an act of self-defense. And to me, I sleep a lot better at night knowing I got that. And my wife.
And again, would you not agree, Don, that one of the best things that if you are involved in a shooting incident, in a self-defense incident, especially if you have this service, that you tell them, hey, I have this service, I have this attorney, and I'm really not trying to avoid, I didn't do anything wrong, but I'm not going to really make a statement.
Right.
I'm not going to give you a statement. I'm going to invoke my right to remain silent, to have an attorney, which again is an amendment. That's another one right there. So we've got the right to remain silent, to have representation. And a lot of people just are intimidated. And guys, when you go through a situation like that, it does rattle you. You're not thinking right.
Right.
So the best thing you can do is just go.
And you're in law enforcement. How many times have you seen or heard that an officer is involved in a shooting and they go over and say, keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to anybody till you talk to the lawyer. So you have to exercise your Fifth Amendment right and with this. But that's exactly right, because you'll talk yourself right into prison.
It's like talking to a reporter. They only hear half of what they take out the little parts, and by the time they put all of them together, hey, that's not what I said. I did not say that. But yeah, you did hear we got this.
You're correct.
And
your response should be action had to be taken to defend innocent life. I will not be making any future statements until I've discussed it with my attorney.
Yeah, and again, that probably going to be in writing, because I like to do everything in writing. I've got a record of what I've
got a card. I've got a card that I literally just hand the officer that has all on there. So
yeah,
there you go.
That is key. I think our listeners need to know that today you do have the right to defend yourself. We are, as your state, working. OK2A is hand in hand with us, working to make sure your rights are protected. But there are groups out there that would like to destroy and that go after that. Unfortunately, we do have some DAs that I just call pukes in the state of Oklahoma. And, we need to weed out the pukes, whether they be judges, whether they be legislators, or whether they be district attorneys. And again, one of the things that OK2A is doing. Hey, Don, I don't know if Bobby ain't here, but while we're talking about that, I'm working on a case that Bobby kind of got me on. A guy named David Fleener, who was in his house. Guy breaks in his house. This guy picks up a knife that was laying over there on a table or something and stabs the intruder. They were in a big fight. He stabs the intruder. Intruder runs out of his house. The guy calls his girlfriend, goes and gets his girlfriend, which is down the street, and calls the police and says, hey, this incident just happened and we need you out here. He gets back to the house before the police get there, sees this guy laying down the street, goes down there to look, and the guy's dead in the street. So he had, during the altercation, well, this ME testifies that the way he was stabbed, that he would have fell immediately. He could not have ran anywhere. So they concluded that he had to run out there in the street and stab him after all of this happened. And so they charged him with manslaughter. He's done 20-something years, 25 years. A guy named Dr. McGee, well-known doctor there in Oklahoma City, got interested in this case, looked at it and said, the ME's wrong. This is not true. Sent it to one of the top medical examiners in the United States. That medical examiner agreed with this doctor. So you got two really high, recognized, honored people. They contact the ME that's over Oklahoma County MEs, and that ME agrees with them. And they get a hold of the lady who testified, and she recanted her testimony, come back and said she was wrong. And that man is still sitting in the penitentiary and cannot get a hearing or anything. So again, guys, you need to know that it's really critical that you have
good representation prepared.
Absolutely.
U.S. Law Shield, this is what they do: self-defense. You don't get a foot doctor to do brain surgery, and that's basically what you're dealing with here.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to push. If you don't want it, don't get it. But what I'm just trying to tell you is that where I'm sitting, I see a lot of things. I have an insurance through FOP. I've got the same thing already, so I haven't purchased that. But if I drop FOP, which I may next year, and if I do, I'll guarantee you mine's $25 a year. Theirs is cheaper. And again, if I have an incident, it's going to be like, hey, I love you guys. I'm all about law enforcement, but
who would ever mess with you? Who would ever mess with you? I just
you'd be amazed at, man, you'd be amazed at people that just, but what they don't understand, I misunderstood, Don. I like a good messing with.
Now, wait a minute. It's not a criminal act to talk somebody to death. I don't know
hey, if they want to get in a talking match, I've met maybe 2 people that I had to take my hat off to and go.
I don't want to dual talk with you. You would have me. There's no doubt about it.
Well, Don, I think we can wrap it up. I think we've covered most of what I wanted to talk with you, but that we just need to know that the ATF is not our friend. They are not representing us. They're after our guns. They're trying to circumvent the Congress and the law, that Biden is going to use his executive powers to try to do the same, that we've got the visa people and the credit card people trying to track us. Y'all are out there fighting all of this, whether it be in the court, whether it be at legislation, that you're passing great legislation. You're offering programs like this to represent people. You help us with the judges. That's awesome. You do a lot more. You're all about liberty, not just guns. You're all about liberty. There's so many bills that y'all have been very instrumental on. You catch hell sometimes and you just seem to walk right through it. I love that about you, that you don't go bad-mouthing people and everything. You just go, hey, this is where I'm standing. I'm not backing up. I've seen once where I thought, well, old Don better back up on that one. He's going to lose some friends up here. You didn't back up, but you didn't go after people. A lot of people on the grade, the scorecard, have really tried to go after you, get you to back down on that, and y'all just doubled down. I think it's awesome. So, again, I just want to thank you for your service. Want to thank you for what you're doing, and just tell you keep on trucking.
Well, thank you. We couldn't do it without you either. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Miss Bob, I hope you get feeling better. That's going to wrap us up today on Elephant in the Room. Thank all y'all for listening, and God bless you.